Hey, BookTube! Welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host, Peg, as ever. And today at the History Shelf, I'm going to be showing you some of my recent Princeton University Press pickups. Um, these were either part of a sale, one of their flash sales, and or just they've sent me some review copies. What can I say? And we have a gorgeous assortment of brand new top of the line history and nonfiction, uh, maybe even a little bit of literary stuff in here. Gosh, we've got, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have a baker's dozen for me to work through today. So let's try to get right into it because we love Princeton University Press at the History Show. So let's start with the most recent book I have received in the mail. And my oh my, is it gorgeous! Wow. This is Origin Africa, A Natural History. There you go, by Jonathan Kingdon. Look at this beautiful cover on the back. And before I even read the pub sheet, it's so richly illustrated with glossy pages. So, natural history, obviously. And I haven't read a natural history book in forever. But, oh, I'm so intrigued. It's a heavy book. It's pretty heavy. You know, it's not surprising with this heavy paper stock they got. So this published on July 25th, so just this week. This is a unique introduction to the natural history and evolution of the most misrepresented continent on Earth. Celebrated evolutionary biologist and artist Jonathan Kingdon, a leading expert on the natural history of Africa, tells this extraordinary story as no one else can. Africa is the richest continent, containing every habitat from desert to tropical forest and the widest range of plants and animals found anywhere. It has experienced extraordinary climate fluctuations, meteor bombardment, and cataclysmic volcanic eruptions. Yet life has not only survived, but evolved almost countless species. One group of primates evolved out of this crucible and moved out of Africa to dominate every continent on Earth. Africa has properties that ensure that most of human evolution couldn't have occurred anywhere else. A fascinating story told as never before, Origin Africa chronicles how the natural conditions of Africa enabled a spectacular evolution of plants and animals, including Homo sapiens. So this is out right now, and again, just a sturdy, heavy book, just so colorful. Pictures, but the colors are what are just amazing to me throughout this book. Oh, wow. Slow but smart. Look at these drawings. A beautiful book out right now by Jonathan Kingdon from Princeton University Press. Okay, well, let's move on. And a good rule of thumb is, if you like what you see here, maybe just jot down some of these titles, and just keep them on your list for the next Princeton University Press flash sale. It could be 50% off, could be 75. That's the one we like a lot. And just kind of write it down, and so that you can maybe, pick these up when these go on sale. The next big delicious book, and it is delicious. Uh, this book came out July 11th, and this is Southern Europe in the Age of Revolution by Maurizio Isabella. There we go. Look at this beautiful book. So what are we looking at? What are we going to cover in this book here? Obviously, there's a lot. After the turbulent years of the Napoleonic wars, and the Congress of Vienna's attempt to guarantee peace and stability across Europe, a new revolutionary movement emerged in the southern peripheries of the continent. In this book, Maurizio Isabella examines the historical moment in the 1820s when a series of simultaneous uprisings took the quest. No whining. Roxy, go lay down. Sorry. She likes my attention when I don't give it to her. When a series of simultaneous uprisings took the quest for constitutional government to Portugal, Spain, the Italian peninsula, Sicily, and Greece. Isabella places these events in a broader global revolutionary context, and, decentering conventional narratives of the origins of political modernity, reveals the existence of an original popular constitutional culture in Southern Europe. Isabella looks at the role played by secret societies, elections, petitions, protests, and the experience of war, as well as the transnational circulation of information and individuals in politicizing new sectors of society. By studying the mobilization of the army, the clergy, artisans, rural communities, and urban populations in favor of or against the revolutions, he shows that the uprisings in the South, although their ultimate fate was determined by the intervention of more powerful foreign countries, enjoyed considerable popular support in ideologically divided societies and led to the introduction of constitutions. All right. This is going to be a meaty type of political study. Political science. Oh, wow. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful prints here. Shaping public opinion, reconceiving territories. Yeah, so this is going to be pretty deep. This is well over 600 pages. So, Southern Europe in the Age of Revolutions by Maurizio Isabella. Came out July 11th. Ooh, I'm very excited for this book. Yes. You know me, I love my Hannah Arendt, and there is a new book about her, as well as Isaiah Berlin. You can't go wrong. So this is Hannah Arendt and Isaiah Berlin, Freedom, Politics, and Humanity by Kai Haruda. I'm going to say it's Kai. And it's not too, it's about a little over 200 pages. So it's a slim study. I kind of blocked out my eyes. That was weird. I don't have a pub sheet for this one. I think I bought this one on a sale. It says here, for the first time, hi Goldie. There she is. Can you just wait for me to be done? They're wondering why Boomer's gone. So here we go. For the first time, the full story of the conflict between two of the 20th century's most important thinkers, and how their profound disagreements continue to offer important lessons for political theory and philosophy. Hannah Arendt and Isaiah Berlin fundamentally disagreed on central issues in politics, history, and philosophy. In spite of their overlapping lives and experiences as Jewish immigrant intellectuals, Berlin disliked Arendt intensely, saying that she represented everything that I detest most, while Arendt met Berlin's hostility with indifference and suspicion. Written in a lively style and filled with drama, tragedy, and passion, Hannah Arendt and Isaiah Berlin tells, for the first time, the full story of the fraught relationship between these two towering figures, and shows how their profoundly different views continue to offer important lessons for political thought today. Oh, this is fascinating. Yeah, of course they're going to talk about Eichmann in Jerusalem. Drawing on a wealth of new archival material, Kai Haruda traces the Arendt-Berlin conflict from their first meeting in wartime New York through their widening intellectual chasm during the 1950s, the controversy over Arendt's 1963 book Eichmann in Jerusalem, their final missed opportunity to engage with each other at a 1967 conference, and Berlin's continuing animosity toward Arendt after her death. Haruda blends political philosophy and intellectual history to examine key issues that simultaneously connected and divided Arendt and Berlin, including the nature of totalitarianism, evil, and the Holocaust. Human Agency and Moral Responsibility, Zionism, American Democracy, British Imperialism, and the Hungarian Revolution. Let's just throw that one in as well. But most of all, Arendt and Berlin disagreed over a question that goes to the heart of the human condition. What does it mean to be free? So I'm looking forward to reading this a lot. I don't know why Isaiah Berlin had such an issue with her. I like her a lot. She was a very independent thinker. She made a lot of enemies on the Jewish intellectuals on the left, and I just don't know why. In fact, in my stack of books and all my reading materials, I was looking back through some old issues here. Well, it's an older issue of Reason magazine, and I had totally missed this book review. The Founding Mothers of Libertarianism in Reason, and doesn't have Hannah Arendt in this one, but I just finished reading The Visionaries, and the review that I wrote for it is coming out probably in the next week or so at Shelf Awareness. But it was a fantastic book, and Hannah Arendt was one of the characters. So I'm reading this article, this book review of this book, which I definitely need to get. Sorry, let's see here. Why can I do this? There we go. Freedom's Furies. And this one talks about Rose Wilder Lane and just how, I didn't know that she was one of the founders of or helped create libertarianism. Had no idea. Of course, Ayn Rand is in here, and then Isabel Patterson. I'm not real familiar with her. Anyway, I love these kind of type of magazines because they have some really good book reviews in the back. So that was just a little personal aside. I've got articles everywhere. I mark them up. What can I say? Okay. Oh, I also have the other book by this gentleman that I bought at one of the first Princeton sales that John David, another booktuber, and I went hog wild with, and he's already read this gentleman's other book, and I still mean to, but it's a second edition in paperback of Richard Wollin's The Seduction of Unreason, the intellectual romance with fascism from Nietzsche to postmodernism. And that is a second edition with a new preface by the author. And so Richard Wollin wrote Heidegger's Children, which I do have and I haven't read yet. John David has, and I think he's already, and I know that he's reviewed it on his channel, so check it out. I'll try to link to his channel below. But anyway, so this is by Richard Wollin. I don't know, John, do you have this one? Did you pick it up in our random Princeton sales? We tend to tag team and share our lists, our carts with each other so we can see which one is buying which, and we give each other good ideas. And he finds things that I didn't find, and I find things that he didn't find, and it's a fun thing. It's good to have bookish friends. Ever since the shocking revelations of the fascist ties of Martin Heidegger and Paul de Man, and an interesting tie-in to Hannah Arendt, right? Because she was a student of Heidegger's and had an affair with him for quite a little bit of time before she left Europe. Ever since the shocking revelations of the fascist ties of Martin Heidegger and Paul de Man, postmodernism has been haunted by the specter of a compromised past. In this intellectual genealogy of the postmodern spirit, Richard Wollin shows that postmodernism's infatuation with fascism has been extensive and widespread. He questions postmodernism's claim to have inherited the mantle of the left, suggesting instead that it has long been enamored with the opposite end of the political spectrum. Wollin reveals how, during the 1930s, C.G. Jung, Hans-Georg Gadamer, Georges Bataille, and Maurice Blanchot were seduced by fascism's promise of political regeneration, and how this misapprehension affected the intellectual core of their work. The result is a compelling and unsettling reinterpretation of the history of modern thought. In a new preface, Wollin revisits this illiberal intellectual lineage in light of the contemporary resurgence of political authoritarianism, which I think is very timely. The preface to the second edition will be fantastic. We just see a lot of things, just history repeating itself, right? Left and right. The excesses of both. Seduction of Unreason, Richard Wolin. Available now. I think that's one I bought on the sale. And here's another one I bought on sale. Oh, it is also by Richard Wolin. Woo! So, yeah, I went on a little Richard Wolin kick. So now I've got 3 books by Richard Wolin. And it goes into this juicy stuff that I just love. Intellectualism and the history of like these thinkers and how they've just, more times than not, have screwed things up. Yeah, the thinkers on the far left from the past, especially French intellectuals. Okay, you're the worst. This is The Wind from the East. French intellectuals, the Cultural Revolution, and the Legacy of the 1960s. Richard Wolin, again with a new preface by the author. So I was worried at first because the first time I had this in my cart, then it was out of stock, and I was like, oh, I should have pulled the trigger on this when I had it. Well, then it popped up again, and thanks to John David, who said I found it okay, I think they have it back in stock, I got it. So now I've got 2 of Richard Wolin's works, and then Heidegger's Children, which is downstairs. So now we're going to talk about my favorites, not Michel Foucault, Jean-Paul Sartre, Julia Kristeva, Philippe Solers, and Jean-Luc Godard. During the 1960s, a who's who of French thinkers, writers, and artists, spurred by China's Cultural Revolution, were seized with a fascination for Maoism. Hence, that's why he's on the cover. Combining a merciless expose of left-wing political folly and cross-cultural misunderstanding with a spirited defense of the 1960s, The Wind from the East tells the colorful story of this legendary period in France. Richard Wolin shows how French students and intellectuals, inspired by their perceptions of the Cultural Revolution and motivated by utopian hopes, incited grassroots social movements and reinvigorated French civic and cultural life. Wolin's riveting narrative reveals that Maoism's allure, among France's best and brightest, actually had little to do with a real understanding of Chinese politics. Of course it didn't. Instead, it paradoxically served as a vehicle for an emancipatory transformation of French society. Recounting the cultural and political odyssey of French students and intellectuals in the 1960s, The Wind from the East illustrates how the Maoist phenomenon unexpectedly sparked a democratic political sea change in France. I was not expecting that at the end of that sentence. So that's great. Let's see how that works out. Maybe as a reaction to it. The Wind from the East. So I'm super stoked about that. Let's see. So we kind of went on a little bit of a intellectual history, philosophy type of kick. Let's stay on that. I've got 2 more books here that kind of go with that. And this is a smaller volume of a work that I know John David has talked about, or this author. And I've asked him before, I was like, should I read his multi-volume work? And he's like, it's pretty dense. He's like, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of hard to get through. But this is Jonathan Israel. And I recently picked up his book on the French Revolution. So this is a small little volume, but I thought maybe this might be my best introduction just to get my feet wet with Jonathan Israel. And he's got some big magnum opus work, like multi-volume stuff. But this is A Revolution of the Mind. Sorry for the light. There we go. Nope. Radical Enlightenment and the Intellectual Origins of Modern Democracy by Jonathan Israel. Do you see that I'm peeking? I'm trying to read it on the screen. Yeah, it's a little slim volume here, Revolution of the Mind. Democracy, free thought and expression, religious tolerance, individual liberty, political self-determination of peoples, sexual and racial equality. These values have firmly entered the mainstream in the decades since they were enshrined in the 1948 UN Declaration of Human Rights. A Revolution of the Mind traces the philosophical roots of these ideas to what were considered at the time the least respectable strata of Enlightenment thought, the radical Enlightenment. Jonathan Israel, one of the world's leading historians of the Enlightenment, shows that the vigorous opposition that met the radical Enlightenment was mainly due to the powerful impulses in society to defend principles linked to the upholding of censorship, church authority, social inequality, racial segregation, religious discrimination, and far-reaching privilege for ruling groups. Yeah, it reveals the surprising origins of our most cherished values and helps explain why in certain circles they are frequently disapproved of and attacked, even today. So, you're getting a nice perspective, left and right. I think Jonathan Israel is going to be more of the defender of the radical Enlightenment and yeah, kind of against conservatism or reactionary elements. And then, okay, so then we're moving on. I think, where did I see this? But I saw it on someone's channel. Was it John David or was it, I'm wondering, was it Vin that Revenant reads? Someone, or was it might have been in our Historathon Discord. I think someone might have mentioned this. I don't know, but this is the Secular Enlightenment by Margaret C. Jacob. So you see, I'm trying to get all the angles here, folks. Margaret C. Jacob. And this one I actually bought. I think I might have had to buy this third party online because I couldn't find it. Yeah, I think so. I think I did. All right, so let me read to you about what this book is about. Sorry, Martine is at the vet a half an hour early. What is she going to do? Maybe they can take you in early. I don't know. But we have the Secular Enlightenment, Margaret C. Jacob. It is a panoramic account of the radical ways that life began to change for ordinary people in the age of Locke, Voltaire, and Rousseau. In this landmark book, familiar Enlightenment figures share places with voices that have remained largely unheard until now, from freethinkers and Freemasons to French materialists, anti-clerical Catholics, pantheists, pornographers, readers, and travelers. Margaret Jacob, one of our most esteemed historians of the Enlightenment, reveals how this newly secular outlook was not a wholesale rejection of Christianity, but rather a new mental space in which to encounter the world on its own terms. She takes readers from London and Amsterdam to Berlin, Vienna, Turin, and Naples, drawing on rare archival materials to show how ideas central to the emergence of secular democracy touched all facets of daily life. Hi, Goldie. There we go. So I picked up the Secular Enlightenment. It is a Princeton book. I just had to go look for it, and I had to buy it used. It's in great condition. I got a really good copy. You know what? I'm realizing I bought a lot of books on philosophy or adjacent to philosophy. But let's stay on this kick. I reckon this is a fantastic new book. I think yes, it is a new book. Hi, Daisy. I can't pick you up. See, you know what? When Martine's not here, everyone wants to be reassured. Everything's fine. So I picked up, or I'm not sure if I might have bought this in a sale or not. This is After Kant, The Romans, the Germans, and the Moderns in the History of Political Thought by Michael Sonnenscheer. After Kant. All right. I think this was one of their new releases for 2023. So this might be my review copy, actually. Let's take a look here. In this wide-ranging work, Michael Sonnenscheer traces the origins of modern political thought and ideologies to a question raised by Immanuel Kant about what is involved in comparing individual human lives to the whole of human history. How can we compare them or understand the results of the comparison? Kant's question injected a new, future-oriented dimension into existing discussions of prevailing norms, challenging their orientation toward the past. This reversal made Kant's question a bridge between three successive sets of arguments, between the supporters of the ancients and moderns, the classics and romantics, and the Romans and the Germans. Sonnenscheer argues that the genealogy of modern political ideologies, from liberalism to nationalism to communism, can be connected to the resulting discussions of time, history, and values, mainly in France, but also in Germany, Switzerland, and Britain, in the period straddling the French and Industrial Revolutions. What is the genuinely human content of human history? Everything begins somewhere. democracy with the Greeks, or the idea of a res publica with the Romans, but these local arrangements have become vectors of values that are apparently universal. The intellectual upheaval that Sonnenschein describes involved a struggle to close the gap, highlighted by Kant, between individual lives and human history. Interesting. And there's our author in the back there. So that sounds pretty challenging, doesn't it? Yeah, we got everything in here, baby. Woo! This is probably a book I know John David has or will want to have. I'm sure he picked it up. So we have After Kant by Michael Sonnenschein. Now, I've never heard of this guy, but I was really intrigued because it is like a oh, it takes it the subject is someone who was in the World War One, and I've been reading a lot of different World War One books lately, and history and fiction, historical fiction. But I wanted to know more about this guy. This is called Dweller in Shadows: A Life of Ivor Gurney by Kate Kennedy. Dweller in Shadows. This is paperback. This is new this year. So Ivor Gurney, and he lived from 1890 to 1937. Wrote some of the most anthologized poems of the First World War and composed some of the greatest works in the English song repertoire. Sorry, there's a false alarm. She's not here. One moment. Well, prize to the person that noticed my jump when they bark like that. They scare the you know what out of me. They just do it with no warning, and I literally come out of my skin. It's almost painful. They drive me mad sometimes. Yeah, so A Life of Ivor Gurney. He composed some of the greatest works in the English song repertoire, such as Sleep. Yet his life was shadowed by the trauma of the war and mental illness, and he spent his last 15 years confined to a mental asylum. In Dweller in Shadows, Kate Kennedy presents the first comprehensive biography of this important and misunderstood artist, and I've never heard of him. I recently read several books on World War One, and one of them I reviewed in Shelf Awareness called "Soldiers Don't Go Mad," and talked a lot about the poets from the First World War. And I don't think they mentioned Ivor Gurney, but I want to learn more. So happy to have this one. Okay, next up we have The Life and Death of States: Central Europe and the Transformation of Modern Sovereignty by Natasha Wheatley. I, oh, how did I get the sticker? Ooh, sorry, that should not have been there. There we go. So this kind of looks juicy. Um, it's kind of stuff I read. I like to read Foreign Affairs, magazine, the journal, I should say, and oh, I'm just fascinated about different political structures across the world. And this one is, yeah, let's talk about this one. It says it's an intellectual history of sovereignty that reveals how the Habsburg Empire became a crucible for our contemporary world order. Sprawled across the heartlands of Europe, the Habsburg Empire resisted all the standard theories of singular sovereignty. The 1848 revolutions sparked decades of heady constitutional experimentation that pushed the very concept of the state to its limits. This intricate multinational polity became a hothouse for public law and legal philosophy, and spawned ideas that still shape our understanding of the sovereign state today. This book traces the history of sovereignty over 100 tumultuous years, explaining how a regime of nation-states, theoretically equal under international law, emerged from the ashes of a dynastic empire. Natasha Wheatley shows how a new sort of experimentation began when the First World War brought the Habsburg Empire crashing down, the making of new states. Habsburg lands then became a laboratory for post-imperial sovereignty and a new international order, and the results would echo through global debates about decolonization for decades to come. Stop whining. Sorry about that. Wheatley explores how the Central European experience opens a unique perspective on a pivotal legal fiction, the supposed juridical immortality of states. Oh, I like this. Princeton, you're always putting out such just interesting, eclectic titles. Like, who knew that I would be interested in something like not something like this, but I mean I am. Um, but what an interesting angle. And actually, Natasha Wheatley, thank you for thinking of something like this. Who are you? Let's talk about you. Oh, look at here's our author, Natasha, coming out with some just original thinking here. Well, of course, she's an assistant professor at Princeton University. Um, yes. She's been co-editor of a couple of different books, and her writing has appeared in Past and Present and the London Review of Books. So fantastic. The Life and Death of States. And this is brand new. This is out this year. I'm intrigued. I love it. Now we got some straight up history from the past coming your way with the Emperor and the Elephant. You like how they didn't put the see, well, the title's in the side, right? I love how they're just like, you know what that is, The Emperor and the Elephant. Christians and Muslims in the Age of Charlemagne by Sam Otwell Soulsby. And this is a hardcover. A lot of these are, I've got a couple hardcovers, maybe 3 or 4, but the rest are soft. This is brand new this year. In the year 802, an elephant arrived at the court of the Emperor Charlemagne in Aachen. Sent as a gift by the Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid. This extraordinary moment was part of a much wider set of diplomatic relations between the Carolingian dynasty and the Islamic world, including not only the Caliphate in the east, but also Umayyad al-Andalus, North Africa, the Muslim lords of Italy, and a varied cast of warlords, pirates, and renegades. This book offers a new account of these relations by drawing on Arabic sources that help explain how and why Muslim rulers engaged with Charlemagne and his family. Sam Otwell Soulsby provides a fresh perspective on a subject that has until now been dominated by and seen through Western sources. The Emperor and the Elephant demonstrates the fundamental importance of these diplomatic relations to everyone involved. Charlemagne and Harun al-Rashid's imperial ambitions at home were shaped by their dealings abroad. Populated by canny border lords who lived in multiple worlds, the long and shifting frontier between Al-Andalus and the Franks presented both powers with opportunities and dangers, which their diplomats sought to manage. This book examines the ways in which Christians and Muslims could make common cause in an age of faith. So I am more than here for that. And here's our author, University of Oslo. All right. Again, just outstanding stuff. All right, we've got 2 more books to show you. And then I think I should be mostly caught up with all the new Princeton books that will be going up in probably going to, well, they're probably going to go in the master bedroom. All right. This is interesting to me. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Jesus in the Talmud by Peter Schaefer. Slim little volume, but I've been wanting to know more about it. I've heard different things from different people. I know what the Talmud is for the Jewish religion and how Judaism, it's like a tradition of the rabbis, I guess. But Jesus is not talked about well from what I've heard, and this is why I wanted something to tell me. Is not talked about well at all. It's some of the passages in the Talmud are extremely horrible, talking about Jesus. I don't know if he's going to get into that here, but I just wanted something that was definitely put out by University Press that I could maybe, trust for, not being coming at it from a alarmist, or sectarian position. It says here, scattered throughout the Talmud, the founding document of rabbinic Judaism, are quite a few references to Jesus. Oh yeah, it says right here, and they're not flattering. In this richly detailed and accessible book, Peter Schaefer examines how the rabbis of late antiquity read, understood, and used the New Testament Jesus narrative to assert Judaism's superiority over Christianity, though these stories are virulently anti-Christian. Okay. Yeah, so I was right. The other book I had on this, it's the provenance is, I need to find it, but it doesn't have a, I don't know if it was a print on demand, but anyway, yeah, they basically pulled out those passages and they were horrible. And it says here, so I guess he's confirming it. The stories in the Talmud, he says here, says they mock Jesus' birth from a virgin, fervently contest his claim to be the Messiah, and maintain that he was rightfully executed as a blasphemer and idolater. Schaeffer contends that they betray a remarkable familiarity with the Gospels. The result, Schaeffer argues, is a deliberate and sophisticated parody of the New Testament narratives, a departure from past scholarship, which has discounted the Talmudic stories of Jesus as unreliable distortions. Okay, Jesus in the Talmud posits a much more deliberate agenda behind these narratives. Okay, so he's coming at it like, yeah, the other places I read about this, I was like, are these unreliable distortions as he is quoted here? Or, and this is why I wanted to get this book, is he saying it's more deliberate? And yes, it's there, and there's a reason. So I'm very intrigued by this. I'm just all about reading about just religious history, and particularly my faith, Christianity. And it's been an aspect that I've always been, intrigued by. That a lot of Jewish people are very warmly accept Christians. But then again, I mean, the Talmud does not support that. So if anyone out there has anything to say about that, if you're from the tradition of Judaism, please feel free to comment below. I'm just trying to learn, and I wanted to check this out. And if you've read this or read something along those lines, let me know. But I've always been just really intrigued by that topic, and what is, what's the truth here? That's in the end why I read and why I try to learn. I'm just trying to find truth. Okay, final book, guys. It's a slim little volume. It's called You Say You Want a Revolution: Radical Idealism and Its Tragic Consequences by Daniel Sherratt. See, very thin, very slim. Yeah, it says here, why most modern revolutions have ended in bloodshed and failure, and what lessons they hold for today's world of growing extremism. Why have so many of the iconic revolutions of modern times ended in bloody tragedies? And what lessons can be drawn from these failures today in a world where political extremism is on the rise and rational reform based on moderation and compromise often seems impossible to achieve? In You Say You Want a Revolution, Daniel Sherratt examines a wide range of right and left-wing revolutions around the world, from the late 18th century to today, to provide important new answers to these critical questions. A powerful account of the unintended consequences of revolutionary change, this book is filled with critically important lessons for today's liberal democracies struggling with new forms of extremism. Looks like Daniel Sherratt is the Herbert J. Ellison Professor of Russian and Eurasian Studies at the Henry Jackson School of International Studies at the University of Washington. That is a mouthful. He has a lot of different books, and he's got another book with Princeton called The Shape of the New. Okay, so this is marked as political science / sociology, but it's a very, again, it only is about like 133 pages. But this is right up my alley. I just don't know why people lose their minds. Short and sweet, but I think it's going to get right to it. So again, I've just picked up a mother load of fantastic Princeton University Press books. Thank you, Princeton University Press. You know I'm your #1 fan here at the History Shelf. Let me know in the comments below what you think of all these wonderful titles. I look forward to whatever Princeton has up its sleeve for the rest of the year. I wonder if they have I think they have the fall catalog out now. I'm already looking for next year, so I'll be happy to see what's going to be coming down the pike for next year as well. But anyway, I think I've got enough stuff here to keep me busy for the rest of the year. So I hope you enjoyed this Princeton University Press, I guess, book haul of sorts, new arrivals. Uh, you know, again, make your list, wait for those sales, wait for those Princeton flash sales, and then lock it on. All right, guys, I'm going to run. I got to go calm down these animals and see how Boomer is doing. So take care and stay cool out there. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.